10 years ago, on June 9th, 2012, Mogzwamp began what would become the greatest journey of his life, the survival map in the Superflat world. Over 100 episodes later, everything has completely transformed. Utapin's voice deepened, his looks changed, his hair grew longer, and his world transformed significantly. That's nothing less than a decade of simply insane Minecraft. As usual, he started his map by collecting some resources like wool and wood, and soon after he found a villager's village, so for now he could settle right there. Still in the village, our hero found some extremely important resources, like obsidian, apples, and even some diamonds. Fortunately, he spawned near some pounding slimes in a Superflat world, which would greatly assist him. In later episodes, using the village's lava pools, he chose to create a nether portal by merging fire and water to generate more obsidian. And that earned him, already in the 4th episode of the saga, an early passage to the nether. On the 7th day, our warrior decided to build a small cobblestone generator. Besides that, he also chose to create an iron golem farm, aiming to get more iron for future constructions. He had to destroy all the villages to create more space and clear the junk, making it easier for mobs to spawn. The most curious thing about all this is that at that time there was still a list of things that were going to be released in future game updates like desert and jungle temples, and most interestingly, the headstone. Pure nostalgia, his videos from that time didn't even have those things yet. Later on, Mog decided to open a giant circle in the middle of the map that would support magnificent constructions. Besides that, he decided to fill the entire outside of his fortress with water, which in the Superflat world is something super easy to do since there are no hills or mountains. And after some time, the YouTuber finally finishes his immense aerial base where he will first build a mob farm. 4 days later, an efficient monster generator was ready to provide resources from here until the end of the series. Mog chose to build a gigantic wall in order to enclose the area and give the place a fortress-like feel. For that, he needed hundreds of full chests of stone bricks, and after several days, he finally completed his greatest work so far. In this fortress, he built several floors. The first was used for resource storage, the second contained a mob trap, and the third and final floor would be a city with absolutely everything our warrior needed, such as his house and some farms. In addition, an efficient iron golem farm was built, and for that, our warrior had an absurd amount of work moving the villagers to his sky base. The player had completed all 4 sections of the second floor and finished his super mob farm, which rapidly provided him with experience items. Moreover, our warrior was well equipped with a chest full of diamond tools and armor, making him quite advanced. At this point, the Superflat world had massive cobblestone, iron, and blaze rod factories, over 60 blocks of emerald, a huge fortress, farms, gardens, and more. And a curious fact about Minecraft 2012, back then the enchantment table was much more random, since we didn't know what kind of enchantment we would get, and many times we spent very high levels to get effects we didn't even want. After over 4 months of playing Minecraft, the fortress was nearly complete and the mob farms were fully operational. That's why our warrior decided to prioritize decorating his map. He decided to wait for update 1.4 arriving on October 25th, 2012, adding beacons, anvils, and decorative stairs to the game. Notably, his map features a custom spider farm designed by Mog and the Garden of Peros, which has plates engraved with channel subscribers' names. The place also features giant mountains made with a cobblestone generator and manually. The guy raised several mountains by hand just to make his Superflat world have a bit of terrain and look a little more natural. Now let's go to 2013, more specifically to the second chapter of this incredible journey, the golden age of the Superflat world. That's because at that time he was still a teenager in school, always available to play and according to him, starting to get used to the cameras and the Minecraft community. Besides that, he was also starting live streams and getting familiar with the YouTuber profession. A very interesting fact is that in 2013, no one had thought of mining in the nether using beds yet, and most likely it was our dear friend here who invented it. On day 202, Mog started building a huge withered skeleton farm. However, it was all in vain since after several weeks trying to nerf the place, our hero failed miserably because the mobs kept spawning and interfering with the skeleton's spawn, and as soon as the wither was released in the 1.4 update, our warrior decided to face it in order to get to know it, and of course, to defeat it. For that, he spawned the mob on a giant mountain, and this was the result.
Oh wow, runaway,
When a boss is newly released in Minecraft, it's very difficult to kill it since people don't know the tricks or strategies yet, and of course that also happened back then, making it really hard for Mog to defeat the Wither boss. But after a few tries, he managed to do it and got the Nether stars and consequently the beacons. In the first half of 2013, several projects were completed, including an ender pearl farm, stone and wood farms, potato and carrot plantations, fortress decorations, and a cutting-edge piston elevator. Another interesting fact is that during this period, the 1.6 update was about to arrive, introducing items like hoppers, carpets, and quartz. Moving on to day 429, these are real life days, so that's already more than a year just playing Minecraft. Mog started building a gigantic smelting factory. It will convert all the cobblestone into smooth stone, which will be used to build a huge statue of Arangolin, where the villagers who will help him get diamond pickaxes through trades will stay. These pickaxes will be enchanted with fortune to get more quartz and consequently generate comparators for Editone to finally build a gigantic item sorter for the mob trap. In a super flat world where resources are scarce, our hero must work hard to obtain them. Trades with villagers are crucial, leading to the creation of a mega structure to facilitate these exchanges. Sometime later he started building his super library, and for that he needed to visit several villages to collect all the books that were there. Among several giant constructions, now we can already see a bit of the Arangolin statue that he had started. And as I mentioned before, that's where the villagers will be sheltered for future trades. By episode 50, the following constructions were already completed. The 4 main buildings around his super tower, a gigantic mountain, a huge library, a storage room, a blaze farm, and a trading courtyard inside the giant monument. Insanely, he did all this in just 50 episodes. This way we can jump directly to 2014 and the third part of this amazing journey. During this time, Mog had graduated high school and was searching for a college. Nevertheless, he continued to prioritize the channel. During this time, he also reached the incredible milestone of 1,000 subscribers. We don't always get the recognition we deserve. Finally, what seemed impossible was done. Our warrior decided to cover the cobblestone mountain with grass, and in this way, the epic constructions continued. After a few days of work, a huge semi-automatic wheat farm was built to provide infinite food, and by the way, it still works to this day. Moreover, our warrior found himself needing to search for peaceful mobs like pigs and sheep to create self-sufficiency of resources at his base. And so the YouTuber finally brought some animals with him. It was then that while he was enchanting some tools, a horse finally appeared, a mob exclusive to the 1.6 update. And now let's also see how the cobblestone mountain was looking after being covered with grass. Let's move on to a new challenge called Salacia, which will expand the series' standard. This challenge will be built entirely in the ocean. A gigantic structure was assembled using thousands of collected resources, and the foundation is complete. It will feature another statue. A few days after the project started, 20% of the construction and the monument were already finished. Our warrior took advantage of the momentum to upgrade both the mob farm and the wood farm, and obviously to obtain many more resources in less time. This brings us to 2015 and chapter 4 of this journey, the Dark Ages, which lasted until 2019. At that time, the channel was growing considerably, just like Mog's social life. However, the Superflat World projects were not left aside, and the most ambitious one, Salacia, was getting bigger and more monumental since it was also built in a huge greenhouse at the site. And a curious fact is that in update 1.8 we had the addition of rabbits, but already in the next 1.9 rabbits stopped spawning in Superflat worlds, and so unfortunately due to lack of time, our dear Mog didn't get any rabbits. Comment F rabbits here for this sad loss. From July 2016 to May 2017, our warrior played very little, so the series was paused. However, when he came back, he upgraded his mob farms, built a gigantic bridge, and finally started and finished building his house, or rather, his mansion. And after these achievements, Mog once again took a break from his journey, returning only in February 2018. When he came back, he made a list of goals to achieve, such as creating slime, endermen, and chicken farms. In addition to finishing the super tunnel for passive mobs, the fact is that the Salacia project was resumed, and with that he began building a huge aerial ring surrounded by water. Chunk by chunk he filled every space of the base with buckets of water, and in 3 weeks he managed to finish the project. Chapter 5 of this incredible journey starts unusually. In 2020, Mog hadn't played for over 6 months due to moving to Texas. The world-changing quarantine was happening. During this time, the abandoned series had a true rebirth. The game, now in version 1.15, saw Mog decide to revamp most of the builds. He fixed farms, portals, structures, decorated buildings, and the Sea of Salacia. He discovered changes from the updates, got new items, and finally started his huge chest organization system. In episode 90 of the journey, Moga congratulates Peter for creating a sea lantern farm and finishing the pork and beef farm. From then on, he decides to build a super spiral staircase and demolish the old inefficient wood farm. A few episodes later, our warrior goes out to explore the Superflat world and ends up finding a lion village that hadn't been generated yet. The series included a new item, beetroot. He didn't have it before, so he made sure to multiply it. Around the 100th episode, he made changes to the super floating island, which went from being square to being round. Besides that, he will take this huge structure all the way down to the ground, which will be extremely hard work. But now remember that I said Mog's world still didn't have sugarcane? Due to a generation bug, it took him 2,914 days to get the item. With it, he crafted his first maps to better observe his constructions. He also built a mini farm to ensure a steady supply of paper for himself. Our warrior had big plans for the redesign of his world, starting with the airbase. The intention was to create huge biomes outside the base in order to recreate a world from scratch. But before that, there was the Minecraft 1.16 update, better known as the Nether update. The YouTuber chose to reset all his nether chunks since he didn't like the way the old ones were formed at all. Another interesting fact is that only 8 years after starting his world, Mog was able to visit the end. As is well known, the Superflat map has some bugs. Among them is the lack of stronghold generation. However, hoping to change this, our warrior created a new save with exactly the same seed and then copied and pasted the files from the existing map. And so, only in 2020 he was able to visit the end and consequently take advantage of all the resources found there like shulker boxes and elytras. Already in Minecraft 1.16, Mog decided to create a list of farms he planned to build in the future. For example, an Enderman farm, a coarse fruit farm, a blaze farm, a wither farm, and a piglin farm. However, these goals will take a long time to accomplish and will take months to complete. Now, on day 3005 of the series, our warrior finds a wandering villager and with him some resources that had never been accessed before, such as sand, cactus, saplings, and blue ice. And 23 days after that, the YouTuber decided to start his Enderman farm and continue building the super walls that will extend from his sky base down to the ground. They will be made up of several layers and each one will have the appearance of a different biome. On day 3033, our warrior finally finishes decorating his cactus farm and sets out to start the piglin farm, which at the time was new in Minecraft, and so it was. After a few days, the project was already finished, providing regular and crying obsidian, special arrows, quartz, and everything else these mobs offer. Our hero also plans to upgrade the central building of the base, both in size and decoration. In addition, he started the project of a huge bay to surround Salacia Island like a kind of continent, and in these places, he intends to build the highest mountains on his map. For that, he left the structures pre-built to finish them over time. Furthermore, Mog created a mega circle under his spider farm in order to make a garden and a cathedral there. He constructed a port around the island to expand his fishing village, simulating a villager community. In addition, he completed his mega glass wall to enclose Salacia, transforming it into an Atlantis-like city. And now the only remaining task is to decorate the ocean floor with corals, blocks, fish, and rocks. And that's how we go straight to chapter 6 of this incredible journey. He started it in 2020 and it continues to this day. Episode 100, besides being a kind of review of the saga, was also where Mog finished the interior part of the cathedral, the super beach around Salacia, and started a huge nether hub. He began by clearing a beautiful area in the basalt delta biome, and even though he was greatly bothered by magma cubes, he made great progress on the project. In addition, the YouTuber also created taverns that simulate more rustic buildings and began planning the potion stations. But for that, he needed several chemical ingredients. In episode 102, the flower, wheat, wither roses, and sea pickles farms were finished, putting the alchemy modernization project slightly ahead of schedule. Going back to the nether project, to expand the hub, our warrior decided he needed more nether bricks and consequently fungi. He converted his manual farm into an automatic one, boosting resource production even further. In this special Halloween episode, Mog created a cemetery, a witch's house, a forest, and a gallows to simulate a medieval setting. And to finish the episode, he started another gigantic structure with the goal of building another continent, thus creating a realistic bridge, a small food shop, and a staircase that connects different parts of the city in a very medieval way. In episode 104, the moss farm was turned into a small brick pottery. In addition, a gigantic lighthouse was introduced out at sea, near where the new mountains were built. With the release of Update 1.18, the world's priority shifted to building a megaport. And for that, our warrior decided to open up a huge space, even breaking bedrocks. With the project underway, Mog returned to the Nether to complete his hub. Our hero finally reached the milestone of 10,000 subscribers by making a special video. This project will be a mega building that will cover and decorate the entire mob farm, which was aesthetically unpleasant. This project took more than 3 weeks to complete, becoming one of the most beautiful constructions on the map. Near the 10th anniversary of the Superflat world, Mog decided to make a list of things to do for the commemorative video. In addition, he tore down most of the buildings at his airbase because, according to him, they looked rather outdated and were spoiling the view of the city. By this time, the channel had gained many subscribers activating hardcore mode. As progress continued, new constructions were made as seen in Vinicius 13's map. The constructions and developments never stop, and that's how we get to today, 2022, when the series completed 10 years. And of course, all the credits are in the description for this amazing foreigner who did an outstanding job. This map is definitely part of Minecraft's history, and besides that, it's also part of MOG's history. Comment here what you thought and share the story of your own maps.